Hi guys, Human Century here, and welcome back to another video. And today we are going to be celebrating a bit of a landmark on this show, or this YouTube channel, as now, as of yesterday, their first ever Doctor Who episode premiered whilst this channel's been up, because I started this channel a couple of months back, which is really cool. So we are going to be reviewing it, and it is the Halloween Apocalypse, the episode that came out yesterday, and I'm going to be reviewing my fresh thoughts on the episode. I was going to make this my kind of Halloween special episode, and I didn't want to review this and get it out for Halloween, but I just thought it would be a bit difficult to, get it out on the same day it was airing, especially at 6:25. It was a bit late. I just thought it'd be easier to get it out today. But first of all, if you do want to like my video and go on to like it, please consider liking and subscribing, as it does help out me a lot. But yeah, let's get into the video. So first off, we have the kind of intro, which I predicted in my trailer video. If you've watched that, if you haven't watched that, you should go watch it. But in my trailer video, as I correctly predicted, the green planet that the Doctor and Yaz are on without Dan was kind of like the intro on it, suggesting that they'd still been travelling since then. And yeah, they are chasing the dog thing, which was in the trailer, called Carvanista, and they are tracking it down, and he's trying to do something which obviously the Doctor first thinks is a malice intent, or something evil in at first, but obviously it reveals that, but later on they reveal that it turns out he's trying to protect the Earth, and him and his species are trying to protect the Earth a little bit. But yeah, so first off, we have Jodie Whittaker back as the 13th Doctor for the final season, and I must admit, out of the three cast, and out of her and her three companions, of series 11 and 12, I did always think that she was just a bit weak as one of the weaker characters. I really like Graham. I thought Yaz was okay, and I thought the Doctor was just a bit and I thought that Ryan was also just quite an underdeveloped, weak character. But then in this next episode, in this with the first time she's been without Ryan and Graham in another story, but she still has Yaz, I still think she's probably the weakest link. She's still just a bit of a weaker Doctor to me. She doesn't really seem to have that same flair that the rest of the actors have had, with their own uniqueness and spin on the character. I still think she's lacked that. However, I think Yaz has actually been quite a good companion. I quite enjoyed Yaz in this one. Yaz was always, to me, just kind of a weaker companion. I thought she was good, but Graham was a lot better, and Graham stole the show, and she was just kind of okay in terms of a companion, better than the Doctor and Ryan, but she was still just okay. But in this, she actually seemed quite good. I think the fact that there's going to be two companions alongside the Doctor will help her a lot more. I think if John Bishop's Dan Lewis becomes maybe more of a bit of a Nardole character, especially, she'll get that more centre stage, and there might be more they can do with her. And yeah, I actually quite liked her character. And then speaking of John Bishop's Dan Lewis, he's phenomenal, and in his first episode he hit the ground running. He's funny, he's witty, and he's just very scouse, and it's hilarious. The scene where the Carvanista breaks down his door, and he just complains that he should pay for the door, and that whole thing is hilarious. The bit where he tries to mind control Dan, and he's just like, you should come with me and obey me and stuff, and he's like, I just don't think I would. That bit's hilarious. That whole scene is just really funny, and I really enjoyed it. So moving on to the kind of central plot. So first off, we kind of start off with this man. He's in a cage, and he kind of, I suppose, he kind of just breaks out. I guess he breaks out. I don't really know how he did it, but he broke out of this prison, killed a couple of people, and he kind of got his old form back. He managed to revitalise himself, rejuvenate himself, something like the Master's kind of done before with stealing the body of Anthony Ainley's character in Tramus in Creeper Atraka, and he kind of revitalised himself. And then he moves on, and he seems to have this kind of background of the Doctor. I assume at the time, I figured out she was tracking down Carvanista rather than bumping into Carvanista. They kind of tracked him down, and Yaz keeps going on about how they've been tracking him down for a reason, and she wants to know why because she's not in the loop anymore, which is an interesting dynamic because we've had it before. I think 11th Doctor, Matt Smith's 11th Doctor, is a good point to go to the fact that Amy and Rory kind of figured that out. Especially, I think in Amy's Choice, it was very well mentioned that the Doctor doesn't always tell them everything. They're not his best friend. He doesn't need to, and he doesn't tell them everything. Us as the viewer know a lot more about the Doctor than his companions. So I think that makes it more interesting, because obviously Yaz doesn't know about the Timeless Children. We know about the Timeless Child and her being through the division, and it was interesting because she clearly doesn't want Yaz to know, because she sends Yaz off to go do something else while she tries to confront Carvanista about the division and the Timeless Child. And it's an interesting idea because obviously she's not telling Yaz, which I don't know why she wouldn't, but it's clearly building up to the fact that she will most likely tell Yaz, or something will happen and Yaz will find out eventually, and it might even be in some way of, like, you know, splitting them up. That might be their end. She might find out about this, be really upset and decide enough's enough and leaves. In terms of the story, I think, and I said this when I was watching it to people I was watching it with, I really think the 6-episode run, because they didn't take what I thought they would take originally as the kind of they've got 6 episodes to work with the 2 specials, so 8 episodes, and I assume the Flux will run through the 6 episodes and it won't carry on. It'll be 2 standalone stories most likely, or some sort of like end of time kind of thing where they have 2 episodes which are part 1, part 2, and then she regenerates, something like that. But because of that, I think the Flux is kind of, because they're not doing standalone stories, they're not doing episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, episode 4, 5 and 6 with a different story. So you've got bang, first episode, I don't know, the Carvanista are the villains, even though obviously they're not the villains, and they could usually do that, maybe some minimalistic threat like there was in Forest of the Night. I know it's not a great episode, but there's like this one threat to the Earth, they kind of prevent it, and it's the end. Then episode 2, bang, the Sontaran episode, and then 3, and then each episode has nothing to do with the previous episode. I think that would work, but they decided to take a different approach where they did more of a Trial of the Time Lord, where they just did one massive story, and I think this is going to hurt. I don't know, but in this first episode, it felt fine enough. It just felt there was a lot of things going on, and you had to kind of figure out everything that was going on, because first off, you've got, at the end of the episode, you've got the Doctor, Yaz and Dan all in the TARDIS, and the Swarm's about to come into the TARDIS. Basically, you've got the two, the guy we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, the villain who knows the Doctor, and he managed to get his sister back partway through the episode. So, you know, they're also a threat. The Sontarans were introduced in this episode, which are going to be more of a main antagonist in this next episode, the War of the Sontarans. But they are still introduced in this episode as they think there's going to be a massive battle because of the Swarm, and they want to take advantage of that. Then you've got the new character Vinder, who's kind of was on a space station, and he's jetting, he's gone on his shuttle, and he's trying to escape the Swarm. And you've got a woman who met the Doctor and Yaz really randomly, and said that she was a bit confused. She didn't really make sense, and obviously I realised it partway through, just before the reveal, but she was going to get zapped back in time, and that's why she was saying to the Doctor stuff like, I'll see you in the past kind of thing, I'll meet you in the past. And then also you have your woman who was with Dan at the beginning of the episode, who was waiting for Dan, and then kind of got sucked into a house, kind of. It was a bit weird. So there was lots of things going on, and in this first episode, I thought it was fairly well executed. But I'm worried that if they kind of keep going on with this kind of so many things going on at once, the show will find it hard to keep up with itself. Because although I think the Sontarans will definitely kind of be resolved in the next episode, and the woman from the Weeping Angels will most likely be resolved in the Weeping Angels episode, and kind of maybe mentioned or they might flicker to a perspective of her every so often up until that episode, but I doubt that she'll be a substantial character until that episode and then not appear again. Same with the Sontarans. And then you've got these villains as the reoccurring threat. In terms of the actual villain who seems to be the reoccurring threat, that's not the Swarm, the man. At first, he sounded very like the Master with his Our Final Fight has begun, but he made it very clear that he wasn't the Master, I think, because he said he remembers every battle they've ever had, and she doesn't, so he has that advantage. And I think if the Master... First of all, I think if it was the Master, Sacha Dhawan would probably most likely have reprised his role, because in terms of Series 12, I think there was a solid enough season apart from the Timeless Child reveal, but he was probably one of the better aspects in terms of the characters of the season. So I assume that it was some sort of other character from the Division, and she must have fought him before entering the Division, which is interesting because it was weird because his lines were very similar to what the Master would have said, like fought in across time, kind of back and forth kind of thing. It felt very what the Master would kind of say, but I don't think I doubt it's the Master. But yeah, in conclusion, I think this was a very solid start to the kind of Series 13 Flux. I thought it was a good it was just a good intro, it was a good opener, and it was just a solid episode, which is good because I think, as I said, I think in my as I think I mentioned, but if I didn't, in my reaction to the trailer, I think she kind of needs that one sort of season where a lot of people, because there's like Capaldi had his season 8, which is contentious because a lot of people didn't really like it, and now it's kind of becoming a bit more well received. A lot of people are actually looking back and going, Capaldi is actually quite a good Doctor, a strong Doctor, and a lot like season 8, sorry. And season 9 I think was a bit more of a lot of people don't find this one mixed, and then season 10 a lot of people, whether people really like it like myself or people just kind of find it good, a lot of people, no one really finds it too bad. And I think she maybe needs one where a lot of people really like it and really think it's a great story, got great stories and stuff, and then even the people who don't like it as much still think it's a solid season, because she just needs that rewatchable season a little bit. But yeah, at the end of this season, on the 6th episode, I will rank all of these based off of after watching them all, and that's also just in retrospective. So I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a good story, strong start, and obviously if it's a 7.5 and I give War of Sontarans a 7, but then when I come to rank them, I put War of Sontarans up front. It's not so much my opinions have changed, it's more the fact that at this point I've watched this episode as if this was a standalone episode, and I think it's a good opener. I think it's cool to see what's going to come on, but at the end of the day I don't know what's going to happen. So if this is the first part and then in the next part they resolve the Swarm because it just dies or something really poor, this episode is going to be a bit more of a letdown, and that's going to make it worse. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing though, as it would help me out. But see ya.